Wellness, Women's Wellness Coach and Team Beachbody Coach. I'm here because I wanted to talk to you guys about sleep because it's such an important topic to talk about, especially for working mothers, new moms, postpartum, as well as students. And so I wanted to jump on here to talk about such a critical piece in your health and wellness journey that I feel is not really talked about very often, especially when it comes to losing weight, mental health, and how our sleep patterns actually impacts our ability to improve our health in the long run. So I wanted to kind of give you guys a few tips today to kind of improve this process so that you are not just sleeping more hours, but actually improving the quality of your sleep, because that piece is actually more important than the amount of hours you're sleeping. So I wanted to share with you guys studies that have been done by Shawn Stevenson, who wrote the book Sleep Smarter. And I love his content because he really digs deeper as to not only the pathophysiology, but the biology behind improving your sleep and how it impacts the hormones and the cells in your brain. And what interested me the most about this topic was because I have struggled with anxiety and depression. And every time that it's worsened for me, it's always been around this problem. So, quickly after having my second child, my sleep was dramatically reduced. And it was during that time that I suffered postpartum for the very first time. And so I wanted to, through this last few years and then having my third one, it got even worse. So when I started to get my own coaching and my own therapy, one of the number one things that was talked about was how much am I sleeping and how well am I sleeping. So I wanted to kind of share what I have done over the years to improve my sleep so that I reduce my anxiety attacks and reduce my chance of depression so that I am feeling better overall. So I wanted to talk about these three things. There's more to it, but I wanted to break down the first three that I feel like are things that we can control right now. And the first one is talking about getting more sunlight. I live in an area of the world where, winter is like about 6 months or so, or at least it feels like it. And we get very little light throughout our day. And so it's very hard to get sunlight. And I'll kind of explain, how we can improve that no matter where we are in the world. But it's super important that we do start improving and increasing that exposure. The second thing I want to talk about is avoiding the screen before bedtime and how that's impacting our ability to sleep deeper versus sleeping longer. The last one is making sure that you're getting to bed at the right time. So let's jump right in to getting more sunlight and how we can improve this area. The first thing that Steve, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Shawn Stevenson talks about is the best time to get the sunlight is in the morning. So between 6 to 8:30 in the morning, this is like the best exposure to the best quality of light is essentially what it's talking about. So the sooner you can get out of bed and expose yourself to that light, the better chance you have of improving your cortisol levels, which a lot of people feel like cortisol is a bad hormone. But if you are cycling it in the appropriate times and the right amounts, it's actually a superhero hormone that actually helps you sleep better and get better results physically as well when you're trying to lose weight or improve your performance. The second thing is you want to go outside throughout your day. So a lot of times, most people are stuck in an office most days and they don't get really much exposure to sunlight. So the more often you can go out, whether it's on break time, in the afternoons after work, rather than, we're tempted to go from box to box to box, from our home to our car to our office and back and forth. So make it a habit to get outside when it's possible so that you are allowing those vitamins that we need from the sun to kind of balance out our hormones. The other piece is you want to make sure that for some people that are in offices, we may be by a window, but you got to be aware that the type of UV ray that we're getting through a window versus when we go outside are different. And UVA is the ones that usually is coming through the window. That's the one that is able to penetrate the ozone layer, through whatever, essentially, right? And it's actually the one that we know is the one that causes skin cancer. So you kind of want to, minimize the amount of that type of UV ray. Now, when you go outside, you're exposed to both UVA and UVB, and that's why you kind of want to have that exposure outside, because when they're combined, they're good for you. And so you don't want to kind of split them up, because, as you know, that causes issues. So, but I know obviously some people have no control of that. So yes, getting some of that sunlight through the window is beneficial, but it's not as beneficial as going outside. So that's kind of why we started with, kind of the levels of how you want to get, this type of sunlight. The fourth tip that Sean Stevenson gives is, you want to kind of avoid sunglasses. And the reason for that is that it actually prevents you from getting the UVB rays that your body needs. And a lot of times the sunglasses we use are actually not protecting us from the UVA rays. And so by you putting those sunglasses that are not UVA certified, is actually reducing your ability to get in the good UV rays and getting in the bad one. So if you can, try to get the very best sunglasses, not just the nice pretty ones, or just don't wear them at all, which I know is kind of hard to do because when it's really bright out there, it's hard to kind of see. But if you have the choice, go with the UVA certified ones. Last thing is the worst case scenario: you are in a basement, have no access to windows, and you're there for 8 hours. Get yourself a light box, because it at least gives you some exposure to some light. It's not the best out there, but it's still gonna improve that ability for you to kind of regulate your hormones so that you're feeling better and you're sleeping better at night. So the second tip that I wanna give you guys is avoiding screen time before bedtime. So 90 minutes before your bedtime, you want to be able to shut off most electronics if you can. I know in some situations, some people were working late, or, students in this case tend to do homework around this time, but I'll talk a little bit of how you can strategize that approach if you have no choice. But in best case scenario, you want to be able to shut off all screens, cell phones, computers, television, at least 90 minutes, so that you allow the melatonin and cortisol to normalize in your body. Because without you shutting off the light or those electronics, your body thinks it's still daylight. And you gotta realize, like, if your body still thinks it's daylight, the hormone levels are off. And back in the day, they didn't have this problem, because once the sun went down, everybody went to bed. But now that we have lights, we have technology, we have all these incredible resources, it's actually affecting our sleep more. So we're going to bed later and later and later, affecting just our overall hormones, ability to perform, think, and even our mental health. The second thing I would recommend, now that you're shutting off your electronics earlier, which I hope you will, is look for alternative activities that will help you to decompress, and really take a break from that, and also kind of prepare yourself for sleep. So whether it's opening up a book, whether it's spending the time with the people that you love the most, and talking to people face to face, because I feel like now, we're losing that ability, that connection, and use that time to really develop yourself. If it is journaling, if it's, doing your brain dump that I've shared many times, in planning out your days, whatever it is, but try to look for alternative activities that don't require technology. Number 3 is turn off the cues. Our cell phones, our laptops, there's like so many notifications everywhere on all the time. And it kind of draws you in, right? It's an addiction. It's like a ding to your dopamine. So that's why you want to reach for it. So avoid that, so that you are less likely to want to turn on the electronics, to want to reach for it. Turn off all notifications. And also reduce the lighting in your electronics before the 90-minute timer, I call it, so that way your body's starting to prepare itself for that shutdown. Last thing I do want to add as well is, in rare situations, like I mentioned, where you have to work late or whatever that reason is, try to have a blue light blocker that allows you to protect your eye vision. It also starts to help you regulate your hormones in your body naturally, so that way you start to shut down naturally again. because, our bodies are meant to do this naturally, but because of all the things that we've been doing in our habits and routines, it's really messed up those routines for us. Last thing is, you want to get to bed at the right time. And this is kind of a controversial one because a lot of people feel like, well, what is the right time for me? A good rule of thumb, number one, is you want to get to bed within a few hours of it getting dark. So because wherever you live in the world is so different. Like the time that the sun goes down and gets dark is different. So I can't give you an exact time, like 10 p.m. because that may be different for people that live in New England versus Florida. But the good rule of thumb is within a few hours. Second thing is you want to get sunlight as soon as you wake up. And again, the reason for that is because you start to increase your cortisol levels as soon as you wake up, which then help you regulate at night because they should be reducing and melatonin should be increasing at night. So the sooner and the earlier you get the sunlight, the more it will regulate at night. And last thing, or second last, is don't work night shifts, which is a hard one. It says you always have a choice, I put on there, because here's the thing is that I know I've worked night shift and it is a choice in many situations. Like we could go out and look for another job, but night shift has shown, study after study that it increases your cancer carcinogen cells. It worsens mental health. It reduces lifespan. They said that doctors that work night shifts reduces their lifespan by 10 years. So night shift is a killer. I know me being a nurse and there's other medical professionals that have no choice. Also like firefighters, police officers, but the sooner you can get off the night shift, the better. Last thing I wanted to mention is the REM sleep timing. And how important that is. Especially like if you're setting your timer to go to bed at a decent time, you gotta realize that our REM sleep goes into 90-minute cycles. And during that time frame, you are shifting in the cycles. And so you wanna time it that you wake up when your cycle is done versus in the middle of it. And so the reason why a lot of people may say they got 8 hours of sleep and still feel groggy is because they cut their cycle in the middle of it. So if you go to bed at 10 p.m., you're gonna wanna wake up at 5:30, right? Because that kind of gives you those 90-minute increments, and you won't be cutting your sleep cycle in the middle of that. So I hope that this helps you guys today. If you guys have any questions about improving your sleep, I'm gonna be doing a full-on workshop on this topic because it's so important, and we really need to start tackling it in a more healthy way so that we can battle the mental health, so we can battle weight gain, and doing it in natural ways. If you guys have any questions, comments, feel free to message me, and I'd love to talk a little bit more about your health and wellness habits and